Welcome to the Supporting Friends and Family video series, developed by Southern Valley Alliance and Women's Advocates. If you're watching this, you're probably searching for ways to be helpful and supportive to a loved one in a potentially harmful relationship. This video is designed to give friends and family practical tools for supporting a loved one who is staying at a domestic violence shelter. Before we begin, it's important to talk about agency, the ability of one person to make their own choices. Abuse robs victim survivors of their decision-making and puts them in a 24/7 pattern of control. As you're watching this video, be thinking about what you can do to restore or reaffirm your loved one's agency. So your loved one is staying at a domestic violence shelter. What does that mean? A shelter is a safe place and a place of healing. People come to domestic violence shelters from all walks of life. There's usually a set amount of time that a person or a family can stay in a shelter. The average is 60 days, but it depends on the program. During that time, your loved one may be meeting with an advocate who can help them get legal, housing, and other types of assistance they need to be safe outside of shelter. They might also be working with a mental health counselor. Most people continue to work or go to school if that's what they were doing before shelter. You might be wondering what the day-to-day experience of shelter is like. Let's talk about some of the challenges of living in a shelter so you can better understand what your loved one is going through. The first challenge is rules and loss of agency. Oftentimes, shelters have rules that, while meant to promote safety and easier community living, can be frustrating to deal with. For example, there's often a curfew that dictates when people must return to shelter. Another challenge is communal living. Most shelters are communal environments. Your loved one may have their own sleeping space, but bathrooms and other living spaces are shared. This can be a big adjustment for people who are used to living in their own homes. The third challenge is emotions and healing. Not only has their living situation changed, but your loved one is likely processing some trauma from the abuse they've experienced and might be grieving the loss of an important relationship, even if it was abusive. What can you say and what can you do to be supportive and help reaffirm your loved one's agency? You can acknowledge that they're going through something you haven't by saying, "I can't imagine how tough this experience must be for you, but I'm here." You can ask questions. Be respectfully curious. What are you enjoying about the program? What's been challenging? And really listen to their response. Even if you're unable to offer practical or logistical assistance, stay connected to your loved one. Swap jokes, send a thinking of you text, schedule times to hang out in person. Now, what can you do? First, keep their stay confidential. Do not pick this person up from shelter with another person in the car. If they've given you the shelter's address, that means they trust you to keep that information safe. If their abuser finds out where they're staying, they'll need to find somewhere else to go. It's best not to mention they're staying at a shelter, even if you don't reveal the shelter's name, because abusive partners have been known to drive around every shelter in an area in an attempt to find their victim. You can provide safe storage. Storage space is usually limited in a shelter. Survivors might only be able to keep a few bags or bins with them, but they might have furniture or other important belongings that they don't want to leave behind. Can you hold on to some of their things until they're back in a safe, permanent home? You can also cook dinner together. Many shelters don't allow for residents to cook their own foods, but if your loved one loves to cook, they might really miss that. Make sure to remember the animals. Most shelters don't allow pets unless they're registered service or support animals. Can you foster your loved one's animal or connect them to someone who can? And finally, give them a lift. Transportation might be an issue for a loved one in a shelter. Most programs can't offer rides everywhere. Many survivors have to rely on public transit, which makes them vulnerable to running into abusive people. You can support your loved one by offering rides to or from work, court, or other appointments. We hope that watching this video has given you some sense of the challenges your loved one is facing right now. But we know that being a supportive person has its own challenges too. As you're supporting and affirming your loved one, what are you doing to take care of yourself? Try to do one small, kind thing for yourself every day and ask others for help when you're feeling overwhelmed. You deserve care too.